The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Hey, 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 wishing you the coolest of beans.
Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Hello.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, the price of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is down 3.38% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 114,140, a high of $118,040, and a low of 113,770. That's down $3,920 in the last 24 hours. This is, of course, because the Dow Jones Industrial Average has fallen more than 700 points as investors digest hiring slowdown and new U.S. tariffs. That's right. A new jobs report for July says that there were less jobs than expected, and a new tariff from President Trump is going to raise tariffs for the United States on Canada by 35%. Canada being the number one trading partner of the United States, this, of course, has caused the price of Bitcoin to tumble to a near 3 week low, near $114,000. Dan Eve, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin, the Dow Jones being down? And it's all thanks to those pesky tariffs.
Well, again, we're sort of like it's crazy that we're saying like it's crashed down to $114,000. It seems so surreal. But the tariffs are obviously causing a bit of repercussions around the world. Obviously, EU have like sealed theirs, and UK got theirs, and we're really happy with that. But it does seem to be having quite an effect on the markets, right? Until these tariffs are finalized, then we're going to have a lot of uncertainty, even with the good news. And it seems like they tried to counter that, right, with the crypto report coming out on the 30th of July. But it's still $114,000. That's pretty not bad. Still got to feel pretty bad for Ethereum, although it's pumped a bit, but it's still not like anywhere near its all-time high. So it's well off the 6% from all-time high. So that may have a little bit to go, but yeah, I think $114,000. It's nothing to scorn at, right? I'm quite happy with that. I mean, it sounds nice.
Ethereum was all the way to about 3850, almost going to break that 4K barrier when we had the bad news about the tariffs. Previously, traders have ignored Trump on the tariffs, saying that taco, Trump always chickens out. But it doesn't seem so this time. Seems like he's going to go through with the tariffs, regardless to the damage that it will do to the international economy. Of course, tariffs just raise prices. They pass that on to consumers, so you pay more for products, you probably buy less products. It probably slows down the economy. It's very regressive and 1920s type era policies brought back to the future today.
And is
Ben
is that?
Ark, what do you think about?
Oh, just a quick
Go
question.
ahead.
So, because we have like import taxes in the UK, is it the tariff is the equivalent of an import
A
tax,
tariff
right?
is the same. It's the same word as import tax.
Yeah, yeah,
Import tax is a lot clearer because you understand what it is.
yeah.
Tariff is another word of art that the stock market people exist just to confuse you.
Yeah,
It's an import tax. Yeah, when
yeah,
you bring a product into the country, you pay, say for Canada,
yeah.
35% more. So if you're going to buy something for a dollar, it's now a dollar 35. As you can see, you're a consumer. You're probably either going to buy a different product or no product at all. So it just depresses spending, and it's because of a misunderstanding that the president has about the world economy. If we buy a lot of things from China, that creates a trade imbalance, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like China's ripping us off. They have really good products at really low prices that we keep buying. I have a trade imbalance with the grocery store. They've never bought anything from me, but I still buy their products and have a great relationship because that's where you buy your food. The
Mm.
same thing, China's where we buy our products. It's not a ripoff, but he's very confused about this. No one can speak to him anymore. He's raising tariffs across the board, especially with Canada, which is the number one trading partner of the United States. Number two is Mexico. And yeah, 35% more for Canadian goods is just going to wreck the economy more. Less jobs, less everything. Ben Ark, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin?
I mean, to be honest, he's doing his mandate in that if he, you know, trashes the US economy enough, then all those blue collar jobs will return to the US because they'll have very cheap labor. Because you would have like destroyed the US economy. So, you know, it's getting there. It's probably just distraction from the obvious news cycle, which Trump doesn't want people to pay attention to. It's like, how can I create some froth in the news to distract people away from the Epstein stuff, which um, is kind of inevitable. And then on volatility in the markets, by announcing something like the tariffs, um, yeah, it makes an unstable market and makes it hard for merchants and producers of goods. But it's very good for Wall Street because people like a frothy market because they can trade it and they can make money. So it's not necessarily annoying everyone because those traders on Wall Street are making a, a good buck. And I'm sure Trump isn't. I mean, I'm not going to accuse him, but he's not the sort of person to shy away from a bit of insider trading. I don't imagine.
Well,
And as we've seen, he is in it for himself and to line his own pockets more than anyone else. So yeah, so I think it's a mixture of things. It's like him and his entourage can make a quick buck trading the market. Um, it gets a bunch of Wall Street pros on his side because they can make some money, and it distracts people away from the Epstein stuff, which is what he wants to do.
is
It'd be
is
cool when Bitcoin returns to being a safe haven as opposed to tracking these traditional markets. It was a shame when it kind of broke away and started tracking traditional markets. It's a bit boring, isn't it? You know, you want Bitcoin to be the safe haven. It will return there one day, I'm sure.
and didn't they tried to, well, they're, aren't they passing through that the what they call the Pelosi Act, but then Trump's immune from it for his term, isn't that right? Like Trump and Vance are, so they'll be immune from any
The
insider
last I'd
trading.
heard is that the Pelosi Act that was renamed to like the Truth Act or some kind of thing,
Truth. Okay.
Representative Pelosi voted for it,
Yeah.
in favor of it. Nine Republicans on the committee voted against it. Their fear seems to be that the current version did, I don't know if there's been a change, did apply to the president and the vice president, as well as all of Congress, to
Mm.
stop the insider trading. So yeah, it would be really straightforward. I support that act. I think that's pretty obvious thing that should be
But
passed.
when it comes to insider trading, I mean, it's like Trump, can pass on information to his friends and
Yeah.
family, and
Family.
yeah, okay, like if
I
there's a
mean
politician who
that's all technically
directly,
illegal already.
no,
That's
I
already
know, but I mean,
illegal.
you
What's
can,
going on here is that Congress can actually legally trade on the information they have. There could be a thing where you just say, okay, you're in Congress, you can't do any trades now, or it has to be in a blind trust or a mutual fund or something like that. But even then, they could unravel and figure out that they have Apple and make the regulatory environment good for Apple. But this is really about Congress, and it's something that's been legal and open. That's why it's fun to make fun of Representative Pelosi. But in reality, all the representatives are insider trading,
Yeah.
except like a very small handful, maybe AOC, Bernie, five or six others, perhaps Republicans, could be anybody. But yeah.
But even you're right, the family, like when I was working for a finance company, um a head office, the like it was, I'm pretty sure our contract said friends and family were excluded from sorry, were included in the stock trading. You couldn't pass any information on, you couldn't like have a partner and say, right, buy stock before the, before it opens because we're announcing results or whatever. So if, unless it excludes and sorry, includes the partners and family, like passing on any information, then it's kind of null anyway, because you could just tell a mate to put a long on you, like a leverage long on for you.
I'm sure it does. I mean, it's not, they aren't allowed to leak that information anyway, really. It's supposed to be private information, and I'm sure they market as such. I remember going back to the McDonald's monopoly scandal. That was actually given out to a friend or a family when the company that was making all the little tickets stole all of the $1 million and other high-priced tickets. And it's shocking if you watch the documentary. They
Oh, the
go to the guy's
Netflix
house,
one, yeah.
and he's not surprised at all. He's like, "Oh, I won $1 million." He doesn't have a shock look. He has a, of course I won because we rigged it look. And yeah, that was exactly friends and family, which always unravels. They always figure this stuff out.
Yeah. Would that apply to meme coins? There you go. Because obviously there was like the Trump meme coin, the Melania meme coin. Do you know if that applies to meme coins as well, and
I
crypto
don't think
trading?
it applies to meme coins at all. I think we're
Yeah,
closing the previous barn door
yeah.
while the cows are going out the other side because anyone can bribe him through the
Ooh,
meme coin, or like you say, even through his family's meme coins if you want to be sneaky about it.
dang.
And as far as the Epstein story that we're not supposed to talk about, it's getting pretty bad. The latest comments is that a Scottish reporter shouted out as he left the room, "What did Epstein steal those girls for?" The president has claimed that the reason he ended his relationship with Epstein, many said that it was over a real estate deal, which seemed, kind of reasonable. Others would hope that it would be over the accusations against Epstein, that one would end your friendship. But the president has said twice now, 2 days in a row, that it was because Epstein, quote, stole workers from him, which
No,
you
no, no,
assume it
no,
would be
no, no,
high
no, no,
level
no, no.
workers.
Stole the help.
Now they're saying that the
That's what he
workers
said.
were
He
in
said
the
stole
spa.
the help, as if he's like
Yeah.
a sort of Victorian aristocrat.
Well, and
They
then now
stole
they're
the
saying that
help. The
the
help.
girls were underage girls working in the spa or the health club
Yeah.
type thing at Mar-a-Lago, and one of them includes this Virginia. I don't know her last name.
Jeffrey,
Can't say it right. Guilfour and
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey,
The one
and
who the one who got
she
suicided.
is
Yeah.
she is mysteriously committed suicide.
The
Yes,
one
so
they
it
fed the one they
and
fed hallucinogenics, so she went nuts on social media, then she killed herself, that one.
and I think she's accused Prince Andrew of bad things as well. And it's shocking that the president seemed to know her name and acknowledged that he was quote she was quote one of the ones that were stolen. And yeah, it's going really bad on that front. And I think they had another article. They said that usually the president, this president, has had the ability to control the narrative, and that he feels he has lost that ability with this Epstein thing, which every day they ask questions about. So we'll have to see.
I did see like a breaking update. It said like the 1 minute's been found. The FBI's found the 1 minute that's missing, and there's an orange presence on there. And I thought it was a piss take, like it was like Trump, like it was like Trump, the orange man, but it was actually like an orange jumpsuit. They think that it was like an extra sort of layer to it.
There's been
The
some
story.
Just naked Trump
incredible.
running in. Little
Ah,
Willie.
The FBI tape has been very incredible. They've
God
said
damn it!
first they said that it was the intact tape. Then they said that the minute was missing from all of their tapes. That this was a standard thing. They always miss a minute. And now they've said that they found the tape, which furthers the question: why would the original tape not just be released and make it so simple? So it's a very strange thing with that tape. I don't have no idea what's going on there, but
So
it keeps getting worse.
It's definitely kind of a popcorn moment, but the worry is that between now and when Congress, I mean, they're off on their summer holidays, aren't they? But between now and when they come
Well,
back,
actually,
he's going to
Congress has
cause Third
specifically
World War.
taken a 1 month break that they
nah.
normally don't take,
No, no, I
so
know.
that
That's
they
what I'm
don't have
saying.
to
They're off
release
on,
these tapes.
yeah.
But there's been a new development where Senator Chuck Schumer has finally realized, someone finally read it to him, that if you get five,
Oh yeah, I
I
saw
believe
this.
five senators together, and you demand information from a government department, they have to give it to you because you are five senators. And he has done this. So there's apparently the Epstein tapes coming to them. There's also this congressional committee, which had a group of Republicans that also wanted the tape, and they voted to get it there. But Speaker Ron Johnson has suspended Congress for a month to see if they can get it to blow over. It's really like Wag the Dog, the movie over here. They're doing anything they
What's
can.
gonna, let's think it through now. Okay. So what's going to happen to Bitcoin when people realize, or when people finally have evidence that Trump is just a massive, horrible sleaze, and that he was as bad as Epstein at his own island, no one knew about. What's going and then what's going to happen to the I mean, what's going to happen to the US, but what's going to happen to Bitcoin as well?
I'm afraid that the next turn is that people are going to say that that's not so bad. There's already been kind of a goal lowering in the Twitter conversation where previously people would say 18 is the line of consent. Now people are saying that 15 is just fine and that their grandparents got married at 15. And I don't know if they can move that down to 12 or wherever they're going to need to move it for safety's sake. But I think the next line they say is that it's just fine. And yeah, as far as the the market, I think there could be a reaction if we find out horrible things about the president and so forth, etc. But at
Unless
the
unless he pulls something crazy to try and distract and like, he tries to get pump the markets, get Wall Street back on his side, does some crazy ass things like pump the markets, pump the crypto markets, and to try and detract from that sort of
well, I
news.
think Ben is saying like, what if the president is labeled a I don't even want to say, would that ruin crypto because crypto then becomes the thing that is loved by the person who's I don't want to say.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I think that's possible in the short term, but it's also if they think he was going to make prices rise, if they think he was going to make stocks or businesses go well, and then he is likely to be removed, as it seems quite possible, that would be market go down after that, but maybe we go back up. I don't know that Bitcoin is. I mean, I don't think it was used, so it would be worse if Bitcoin was somehow involved in the story, and that the girls were paid or took the money or the Epstein
yeah.
was paid in Bitcoin somehow. I don't think we're tied in that way, but yeah, it would be bad. What do you think, Ben? Answer your own question. Would it wreck Bitcoin if it's linked to Trump? We're just saying doing bad things because YouTube probably doesn't like those other words.
I don't know. I think Bitcoin is it's quite nice that Bitcoin in the news cycle these days, it's not the reason that the bad things happen. It's not the reason that dark markets exist or people hack stuff. It's just the thing people use. So
Yeah.
I think we'll be all right. I think we'll be all right. But obviously,
It is
obviously we
it
can
is
lose
it
some.
is sad that it's a rare case where it's not Bitcoin's fault. We did not enable this evil with our agnostic payment system that allows anyone to use it, which of course leads to good and bad things. This seems entirely a dollar based, whatever happened and so forth. But let's move on to the exit question. The Magic 8 Ball predict against the online 8 Ball. Dan Eve, will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Last week, I recall a lot of bullishness, but these Trump tariffs have wrecked our market. So where do you go from here, Dan?
Oh, mini correction and then higher. May even be an all-time high. Higher.
Ben Ark, you think we'll forget the tariffs like we do every time?
I think you just the inevitable bull run which is about to happen, whatever you put in the market, which prevents it from happening, is just tightening the spring. So when it does happen, it will just fire off quicker. Um, so just give it more momentum. So yeah, higher.
And again, the core theory on this bull market previously, we were about the halvening, about the supply squeeze, about the actual number of Bitcoin. But according to charts by Tech Dev on Twitter, it seems a lot more like a standard 4 year business liquidity cycle where money flows in and out of businesses. And we're at the point where money flows into businesses, which means money flows into Bitcoin and other things. So I'll continue to be bullish as per always. But what about the ball? Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Staking the ball can cause bubbles. Without a doubt, the Magic 8 Ball continues positivity on the
Nice.
Bitcoin price. Moving on to issue two, perhaps better timed before the market's turnaround. Why Ethereum is suddenly beating Bitcoin. Ethereum, the number two cryptocurrency used for smart contracts and curio cards, was up 54% in the last month, while Bitcoin was only up 10%. Why is the price of Ethereum suddenly going up? Several companies are abandoning their Bitcoin treasuries to build Ethereum treasuries, with other companies and ETFs also going into the Ethereum market saying, why not number two? Ben Ark, what do you think about Ethereum suddenly beating Bitcoin, at least for the past month?
I mean, I don't know too much about it. I mean, I'm busy enough with the Bitcoin stuff, but it's the usual, like, post Bitcoin pump, chase the shit coins, they go up. I mean, whatever you want to call Ethereum. And then the price goes up, and then it just has less liquidity. There's less, volume there, so it can go up higher. But yeah, it's not something I've got that much time for, really. Ethereum, people build interesting things on it, whatever. But yeah, it's the usual cycle we have in Bitcoin, where the Bitcoin price goes up and then the other things follow. But if you look at the price of Ethereum compared to Bitcoin, it is pretty correlated, to be honest. There's just a slight delay in what happens. and I'm sure some people are trading on that and making a buck. Um, and it makes sense, you know, if you're running one of these strategy type companies and you're building a Bitcoin treasury, and then you know that there's going to be an Ethereum pump off the back of it to buy into it by, you know, making some Ethereum treasury. But I don't know. It's just same old cycle stuff, I guess. Some people making some money on it.
It does seem, Ben, like the same old cycle where Bitcoin price goes up, people take their profits, maybe go into the altcoins, which includes Ethereum. And I think we might even have a third leg of that where people take their profits from the altcoins, maybe put them into NFTs. Don't know where that all ends up, but I think that the reason that Ethereum has gone up so much and the reason the market is looking relatively good with the ETFs and other people buying lots of Ethereum is because of you, Bitcoiners. Too many memes celebrating the death of Ethereum. Too many memes with the Ethereum investors crawling through the desert looking for the sand. Every time I saw them, I said, this is going to come back to bite you guys. This is not how markets work. Things don't just go to zero that are the number two cryptocurrency. And if they did, we'd have a huge problem in cryptocurrency generally, which of course spread up to Bitcoin, regardless of how much we like Bitcoin. I think it was the memes. I blame the memes. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the negative memes about Ethereum and how that might have caused the price to go up just to spite the people that made the memes?
You're right. It's kind of the Streisand effect, right? Because if people are reading about Bitcoin and they see that it's all time high, and it was difficult enough when it was like $100, and people are like, "Oh, I'm not buying." You're telling people about $100, and they're, and I'm not buying because it's $100. It's all time high, and then $1,000. It's all time high at $1,000, and then when it hit 10,000, it's like I'm not buying it. It's 10,000, and then 50, and then 68, and then whatever. Like it's people don't want to buy it because it's really high. So the Streisand effect is that effect where you talk about something because you kind of want to dim it and take the piss out of it, or completely turn it into the or quash the story altogether. And what happens is you're talking about it ends up getting people interested. They're like, oh, so this Ethereum they're making fun of, but it hasn't reached an all-time high yet, and Bitcoin has. So maybe it's a bit of a Streisand effect happening. But I like the way again these stories refer to Bitcoin. They always say like the top cryptocurrency by market cap, comma Bitcoin, or the biggest cryptocurrency, comma Bitcoin, or the original cryptocurrency Bitcoin. And they don't kind of call it again. I think I said last week, like the hardest money or something cooler. They need to give it like a cooler name, like this money harder than diamond, or money harder than a neutron star, or something like that, something crazier like that. But I can't really talk because I called it original. But in one of my raps, I said took a break holding shitcoins down to zero. Delusions of an investor hero. This is after the ICO shit in 2017. Scamming ICO founders fiddle like Nero. So back to Bitcoin, the original hero. But it is it is the hardest money. It's the conduit into realizing that the financial systems that we're currently having, the debt-based system, is not the right system. It's not the way to be working. And one thing that I'll be certainly teaching my kids is like credit cards are the worst thing ever. Just stay out of credit cards, stay out of a debt based system, and fiat money altogether, and just try and stick to Bitcoin. And if you'd have done that, I mean, I think there was even a report that said if you'd have bought the all time highs of Bitcoin, $10,000 at every all time high of Bitcoin, or even the actual, what do you call it, the cycles, the post halvening cycle all time high, you'd still be up an insane amount of money. So just stick to Bitcoin. It's far less risky. And look, if we were going to break it by now, we'd have broken it, and it would have been hacked. And quantum, as we discussed last week, quantum hacking is that's a long time away, a long time away. Unless something crazy happens and AI becomes exponentially intelligent over the next few years, then quantum Bitcoin breaking isn't going to happen for a while. So just stick to Bitcoin if you're worried about losing any money at all. Maybe have a dabble on shitcoins if you're just feeling drunk and you come home from the pub and you're like, oh, I'm gonna buy like titty coin, or well, not titty coin. I'm not endorsing that, but some crazy coin. But just stick to Bitcoin. Stick to Bitcoin and pocket money. If you're ever going to go into these other stuff, use pocket money, because otherwise you're going to lose it. I'm talking from experience, and I didn't buy Titcoin.
It would be great, Dan, if we could choose the epithet for Bitcoin, if it could be like Pallas Athena with her knowledge, or fleet-footed Hermes who delivers messages so quickly. Like you say, it's always based on market cap, just this big round number. And you know the beauty of that, if Bitcoin ever loses its market cap victory to Ethereum or to Ripple or to some other crazy coin that we don't know about yet, they're going to call that the largest cryptocurrency. And it won't matter that Bitcoin is the original or the longest running or whatever you want to say.
With all due respect, the way that the article's written is like it says something like Ethereum beating Bitcoin. Now I'm just thinking when that came to my head, I was thinking of Vitalik in his purple kitty sort of top, like trying to beat a shadow Satoshi that doesn't exist. He's like omnipotent, omniscient. He's like freaking everywhere. He's like like there's no way it's gonna lose against like some shadow thing. So yeah.
There's also no way that Vitalik probably doesn't have Bitcoin still and doesn't still profit when Bitcoin goes up. All of this Ethereum maximalist, Bitcoin maximalist, he never seems to say what he has or has not, and or that he cares about any of this in general. But I do agree, Dan, also like you said, with the Streisand effect, so many people wanting it to go away, so many people trying to bury it. They're just bringing more attention to it. Look at Trump perhaps wrecking the whole economy, starting a trade war with our number one trade partner, Canada. Yet all that does is force a pretty non-political show like the Bitcoin Group to have to explain the Epstein issue in some little detail because it's necessary to understand why the economy is being wrecked, which is why the price of Bitcoin is down, which relates to this show. So it is a very unintended consequences. And while I don't think the memes are the only thing, it's also important to look at, like we said, there are Ethereum ETFs now. That's going to cause it to go up. There are companies that are doing what these MicroStrategy is doing, but they're doing it for Ethereum. Agree or disagree with them, depending on when they buy their big stack or if they distribute their money through the years. It's very possible they make money. There's very possible that there's going to be XRP or Dogecoin or whatever coin ETFs in the future, and that we're going to say the same thing about whatever coin. And it doesn't matter how many memes that you put out about whatever coin going down if they get an ETF, so on and so forth. Let's move on to the next issue. Check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got 4,468 videos. You could watch this channel for 3 months, 22 days, and 12 hours without taking a break, but you'd probably lose your mind. Moving on to issue 3, Metaplanet files $3.69 billion stock plan to fund $210,000 Bitcoin target by 2027. The Japanese Bitcoin investment firm Metaplanet has set out what it calls in the article one of the most ambitious financing plans in the digital asset sector, filing a shelf registration on August 1st to raise up to 555 billion yen, which is $3.6 billion. They're going to use the proceeds from this 2-year issuance of perpetual preferred stock to fund an acquisition of 210,000 Bitcoin by 2027. Dan, Eve, what do you think about these incredible companies we keep talking about here? The goose that laid the golden eggs. Why make anything? Why do anything or own anything or hold anything if you can just hold Bitcoin and watch it go up like MicroStrategy and now Japanese mega firm Metaplanet?
I think I can see what they're doing though, because in the certainly in the UK, and I think there's only one or two companies, pension companies, that will allow you to buy anything that's Bitcoin related. So they're kind of providing an avenue for people that have got their money locked in pensions that can't actually buy Bitcoin. Like if you can't withdraw from your pension now and just buy the Bitcoin, it gives people a way of actually investing in Bitcoin, but via a side sort of, a side door, right? But obviously for anyone else, holding Bitcoin is the obvious strategy. For these guys, they're trying the infinite money loop that Sailor's actually tried, which seems to be kind of working. But yeah, for those that can't move money out of from a pension fund into Bitcoin or into cryptocurrency, at least this kind of provides them an avenue.
This is also an opportunity for stock traders to use their familiar Bloomberg terminals, and they can short and long using their traditional instruments. They don't have to invent or create new instruments like Bitcoin ETFs or short and long Coinbase. They can short and long Metaplanet or MicroStrategy, depending on their market. Ben Ark, what do you think about the Japanese company with $3.69 billion to spend?
Yeah, it's that same exploit which strategy's doing, which is the legacy economy meets future economy exploit, where you can turn on the value printer and create, shares, and then sell the shares on the market, use the shares to accumulate Bitcoin, and then the Bitcoin price goes up, and then people buy equity because they want exposure to Bitcoin because they can't get exposure to Bitcoin without, like Dan was saying, without going through a public company. They can't hold the asset themselves as a bearer if you're a pension fund or something. But they're releasing like Class A non-convertible and Class B convertible shares. Yes, they're turning on um, the stock printer and getting as much money as they can. And so an EGM, which is a general meeting of shareholders, which is like sort of held like all of a sudden you have an EGM, and then they decide, okay, we're going to turn on the stock printer, then we're going to print all these shares, and then people are going to buy them, and then we're going to use that money to buy Bitcoin, which then will increase the value of our company. But it's kind of it's an exploit which I don't think is going to exist forever because it will just if enough companies do that, then the economy will just grind to a halt. But for the period in which it does exist, then there's some people making a lot of money. Um, yeah.
Well, it's not the first time that we've said this on the show by myself or anyone else, but perhaps we shouldn't have made YouTube videos and we just should have invented this company where people give us money and we use it to buy Bitcoin and they give us money and we use it to buy Bitcoin. And sure, the whole time it would have felt like we were running a Ponzi scheme to enrich ourselves. But now it seems like that's working publicly and openly with stocks and other complicated instruments. And at the end of the day, it's Pirate at 40. I buy Bitcoin and hold it for you. You can trust me.
I think the reality is that you can't have Bitcoin and traditional finance exist within the same ecosystem because Bitcoin kind of breaks it. Um, because you can do this kind of thing, and it's similar with Bitcoin and just fiat existing within the same ecosystem. Eventually, countries will probably start following suit and just print more money, buy more Bitcoin. That'll be the next play from some country. Um, and yeah, but we're talking about like legacy financial apparatus which has existed for 100 plus years. It's probably time that has a bit of an upgrade, and some of the rules are changed. But for now, it's a good exploit. And people, like say, they were doing well off the back of it.
It does seem, Ben, like the old world where most of the world was capitalist. The USSR and perhaps Cuba were communist, and the capitalist world was literally working against the communist world in the same way. The existence of Bitcoin, the existence of the old capital system, means that Metaplanet and MicroStrategy, and maybe others soon, get to use this exploit as much as they can until the old financial system breaks so much and so badly that you can no longer borrow any money against it, like that restaurant in Goodfellas. They, after they've stolen everything they can, taken everything in the front, out the back, ruined all the credit, then they burn the whole thing down and they pretend that it was Bitcoin's fault, I'm
But I suppose
afraid.
the ANCAPs would say that that's not capitalist, it's just neoliberalism, and they'd be right in saying that. And it's still sort of state capitalist capture, which just enriches the oligarchs. It's true, like, and maybe you need Bitcoin to exist to make fairer markets, and this is one of the ways in which it does it. Is it just pokes holes and pokes fun at the traditional markets we have, which are clunky and broken and backward and weird, and they can be exploited in this way. Things are going to change. They'll have to, because if they don't, then Bitcoin will cause a 2008 financial crisis because all these companies will just accumulate Bitcoin, and then there'll be no proof of reserves, and then we'll be trading value which doesn't exist. The books won't be balanced, and then Bitcoin will cause the thing which it actually was created to try and prevent, which was being able to balance books and have triple entry bookkeeping.
At first, it seems Darwinian, like the Bitcoin system is eating the old system. And then it all seems like a joke, as if Loki, the trickster god, had brought down Bitcoin just to kind of mess with the old system for maybe as a responsibility for all the things that they've done. Moving on to issue 4. White House report confirms strategic Bitcoin reserve, but one word raises alarm. The latest crypto reports confirms that there is a plan to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but offers no new details except for one word that has everyone on edge. On page 164, the report says the Bitcoin in the reserve will generally not be sold and will be maintained as reserve assets of the United States, utilized to meet governmental objectives in accordance with applicable law. Dan Eve, it says generally not be sold.
Yeah, that's quite it doesn't really elaborate on that, right? So what conditions just generally mean? They did make a point about the fact that there's a difference between seizures and forfeitures, right? So seizures could mean that that a bunch of the Bitcoin is going to go back to the people that it was intended to help, who'd had, maybe if it was a hack, for example. But generally, it's a very broad word. It's a very general word, some might say. So there may be many instances where they actually end up selling the Bitcoin. But I mean, I don't know much about American law or English law. But Thomas, what from you, in your opinion, like what if all these steps forward, right, that Trump is making in terms of crypto adoption, if a Democrat government came in straight after, could they just do kind of a Germany and just go, ha ha ha, we're selling the Bitcoin immediately? Could they do that, or is there any prevention in place that puts more checks and balances so it can't just be overridden?
Well, first of all, I think the most important thing here is that they haven't passed anything through Congress. So mainly they're working by Trump executive orders, which are only as good as the president. So if the new
Right.
president comes in, says executive order, undo all those executive order, that happens.
Okay.
Also, because they aren't going through Congress, Congress in the past, generally, until this strange aberration, Congress has the power of the purse. So if you want to get like $1 billion to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, you get it from Congress. Through executive action, the president can sometimes start wars, do lots of things that cost us billions of dollars, but generally he can't just print $1 billion for his own program and give it to it. That's why they seem to be going after the seized funds and the proceeds from criminal trials, which, like you said, in the past and historically in other countries as well, go back to the victims. These are the victims' funds, and there's also not a lot of them. So compared with Metaplanet, who has $3.69 billion from the sales of stock, if the United States were to say issue government bonds, take the proceeds from the government bonds, use that to buy Bitcoin, then have a hold strategic reserve, that's kind of what was done in the past, I assume, with gold and other things when this was done. And that's all by acts of Congress. This current administration rules almost entirely by executive order or executive action, so it can be easily overturned.
Okay, interesting. So anything that he does now, it has to go through Congress in order to kind of cement it to prevent it from being just immediately overridden by another executive order from a different president, which it could be a Republican, right? Could be another it doesn't just mean Democrat. It could be a Republican president takes over and says actually crypto is used for money laundering and that's it, and burglaries and whatever and kidnapping, and they could just override it straight away with an executive order.
And the main thing with Congress is if you get it through Congress and the president signs it, the way to undo that is passing another law through Congress, getting the president to sign it. It's incredibly difficult, obviously, to pass those laws. So it would be much harder. So that's why they're not doing it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So that word general, it does raise alarm bells because it could mean that they could come up with all sorts of instances where they still say that they're stacking a Bitcoin reserve. I mean, he's already got the votes, right? So he doesn't care about that anymore. But they do seem to be proceeding with pushing Bitcoin and crypto lenient laws. But this general word really does. It's the clinger,
Oh,
isn't
the,
it?
the other thing is just the size of the reserve. The seized funds from criminal cases is just not large enough, especially for the kind of things that, no offense, but the right-wing political Bitcoiners have been talking about, this idea that you could get enough Bitcoin to pay off the national debt. You're going to have to invest a lot more than what's in this criminal fund to do that. Additionally, we're running into the same problem that we've talked about here in the past with the Texas Bitcoin Reserve or the Arizona Bitcoin Reserve, is that at some point, if the government wants to use those funds to build a park or a playground or a bunch of strategic bombers or something, they actually have to spend the money. I know that maybe for smaller people, we're starting to see where you could loan against your Bitcoin and you could get a loan for 100K or 500K. I don't know anybody that's loaning $5 billion against Bitcoin, so on and so forth. So for the government to actually use these funds ever, they'd have to sell them. And then it's only a matter of time before we start a clock like Germany and we say, how long until the government made a horrible decision about these Bitcoin? Seems about every 4 or 5 years. Uh, I just don't. I mean, I understand the government gets a little richer, but they could buy Apple stock, they could buy T-bills or diamonds. We could have a national Picasso reserve. Those things are really nice. I like Bitcoin too. I just don't see the reason for this. And then I also, without legislation, you're just not going to get enough funding. There's been an interesting loophole lately where the president has been able to cancel programs that Congress funds, but that hasn't seemed to be giving them the power to create programs in the same way that Congress has, just because now he can seemingly legally cancel them, seemingly. So let's go on to the next issue. I think we're running out of issues. Ben Ark, do
What
you have
about
any
me?
more on this issue? We'll go ahead and go to Ben Ark. We
Come
didn't
on
go to
now,
you at all.
don't forget me. Bloody hell.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So I mean, how many of those coins are the Bitfinex coins in the treasury? The reserve, the strategic reserve.
It's hard to say. Can't be that many. Those are probably, again, going to be returned to the victims, right?
Yeah. I mean, so it's when countries cotton on. So like the US, one of the biggest ways they can make money, the US government, is by selling government bonds. And a government bond is really like a bet that that government in the future is going to be good for the value. It's going to be good for the money. And traditionally with the US, that's been because you've got the biggest military in the world, so you'll probably be good for the money. And you've got a pretty stable economy, and you make loads of stuff. But the obviously the US economy's starting to be downgraded. You know, actually downgraded, and then also just in the eyes of investors as well. So government bonds aren't worth as much as their weight as they were. But you can um, do a kind of strategy with the government in that you sell government bonds, buy Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's probably going to go up in value, which then gives your government bonds more value. Um, so you could strategy the US economy. And there's the MMT is, they would say that you shouldn't apply household economics to a sovereign currency producer such as the US, where you can just create more dollars. So, you're not going to, I think the soft currency of the USD can be probably pushed a lot further than people think, and you can print a hell of a lot of dollars, buy a hell of a lot of Bitcoin, sell government bonds, buy more Bitcoin. And everyone will speculate that the value of the Bitcoin will go up, and thus that the US government is good for the money. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because you are in fact, taking Bitcoin off the market and making it scarcer, and it will go up. So I think that's probably going to be the next play, is like get the strategic reserve in place and then start fiddling the money printer so you can buy more Bitcoin, print more dollars, buy more Bitcoin, sell government bonds, buy more Bitcoin. It'll happen.
So a
It's
few
it's
places.
certainly not a complex analysis, Ben, but we've always talked on this show about that if the government starts doing that and they start buying Bitcoin with their money, they're going to get less Bitcoin every time, and the dollar is going to keep going down. And I don't know if that's back of the matchbook math or whatever, but Dan, what do you think
Well,
about
no, well,
that?
you
What
can
Ben said?
destroy, the MMTs would counter that by saying that you then just destroy the dollars as they come in to keep so it doesn't hyperinflate, you just destroy dollars as it comes in tax.
Oh, what, burn
So you
dollars?
burn the dollars, baby.
Burning. No, is it? You know what I mean? As in, like, deflate the like
Yeah, so
dollars.
you
Yeah,
you
yeah,
print dollars, you buy
yeah.
Bitcoin,
Interesting.
you get people to pay their taxes, and then
Yeah.
you just delete those dollars as they're coming in on taxes.
Oh man, imagine that. They're actually like, because you know how like so many crypto scenes right now are like burning is a big event, right? Like we're burning the coins and like all the supplies. Like imagine if they start doing that with the dollar. Like every tax that you pay, like 10% is going to go into the burn pit, and there's going to be like the burn pile of dollars. That would be quite interesting. But so apparently of the 198,000 Bitcoin that are in the current strategic Bitcoin reserve, Ben, this is 110,000 will be going expected to be returned to Bitfinex as part of the legal process. So that
Oh yeah.
actually only leaves around 88,000 Bitcoin, which is about 43% of the overall.
Well, that's good because originally when he was announcing this Bitcoin reserve of 200,000 Bitcoin or whatever it was, all the people who got screwed in the Bitfinex hack were going, hold on,
That's
hold
my
on.
that's my money.
Yeah.
It does seem perhaps what the political Bitcoiners most upset about is the government selling their Bitcoin too early. I'm sure we all recall the Silk Road Bitcoins were
Yeah.
sold to Tim Draper, the famous investor, and in the audience, of course, we had $10 to our name, and we were all like, no, no, don't sell them, like sell them to us, the American people, don't sell them to that rich guy, and he got richer and richer, and the government got poor. Maybe they just want to say you should hold them for 5 years, you should hold them for 10 years. Something like that might be a little simpler
Well, I mean, we have this
than,
is
like
this
you say, trying to print and coerce the whole economy so that we could get our hands on some Bitcoin.
this is the crazy thing about Bitcoin, which like you start to see explore more nowadays with something like a Firefish or something, or like some of the lending platforms in Bitcoin, is that with Bitcoin you can time lock Bitcoin. So as soon as you introduce time, so you have something which has value now at a certain exchange rate, and then you introduce the time element, and then it's like, well, how much value does that thing have now? Because you can't move the coins until this time has elapsed. So what are you speculating, which the time will be? So it's a bit like buying a government bond. And then how much is this thing actually worth now if I can't move this thing until in the future? So the strategic reserve, they could time lock their coins. So that'd be a good way around this.
Mm.
And then peg it to some Bitcoin government bond and then sell that.
Oh, well, that's a good point because time locking it would be preventing a way of the current administration by executive order preventing them from being sold. We're going to time lock the remaining bitcoins for like 10 years or something. I'm not giving them ideas,
I think we are. I think we're
but
giving them ideas. Typical
That's
WCN
true. If
style.
they cryptographically time lock
typical
them,
WC.
they could not unlock them until the time went off. It does remind me, Ben, of something I heard about once in Las Vegas. How during a football game or a soccer game or whatever, if you have a bet that's going well, you could sell your bet for say 70% of your winnings,
Mm.
and someone else would hold it for the rest for that 30%. In the same way, maybe the government could do something like that, kind of sell it early for less, even though it's time locked in the contract for 10 years or whatever.
Yeah,
It
that's
does
cool.
bring up a lot of interesting things, and it'll be interesting to see if the government does do like Ben says and prints it, deflates it, buys it, prints it, and creates this cycle. Of course, the spoiler alert is that the CIA invented Bitcoin and they have all the Satoshi Bitcoin, and they don't care at all about all this nonsense about getting Bitcoins. All they have to do is come back with their keys. But
Epstein
nobody
invented
knows that.
Bitcoin.
Oh
It's very
God.
true. That's the worst thing. We don't want that, Ben. That would be the worst possible thing, is if Bitcoin somehow got into that story. But we're running out of time. So let's go to prediction or story of the week. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
Oh, so the only story of the week is Bitcoin crash down to 113,000. It sounds more sensible when you say crash down to 30. A crash down to $113,700 right now. So it's there you go, 113,698. So in the grand scheme of things, we're still doing pretty darn good. So everyone toast to Bitcoin being over $100,000 still, and maybe we won't ever see under 100,000 again. I don't think we will. I could just see like maybe a correction down to the near 100,000, but then that'll be the psychological barrier for a bunch of buying, and maybe we won't ever see below 100,000 again. Who knows?
I do think that some of this Bitcoin crash is certainly my fault. We were hanging out there at 118,000, and I was like, Bitcoin's doing so good. It's just staying at 118. This is great. Everything's fine. For the next second, it went down. So I don't know if
Because
that
we were
was
so
related,
bullish
but
last week. We were
is a
bullish last week.
possibility. We were very bullish last week, or you guys were. Ben, Ark, what do you think? Do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Not really. Just grinding away. I honestly didn't notice the Bitcoin price because I've had my head down on the old computer doing the grinding. Um, Having a bit of a hardware sprint in LMBits land fixing LMPOS and the FOSSA, the ATM thing, and we have like a new POS coming out, which is pretty cool, which uses NWC, Nostr Wallet Connect, so you'll be compatible with a bunch of different Nostr Wallet Connect providers. So looking forward to the hardware sprint being done. And I think that I hope to have it done this week, but I think we'll have the sprint done next week so we can, and then I'll release some videos on some of the hardware. But that's about it really. I've just been grinding hard. And then I burnt out towards yesterday. I worked too hard. It's important not to work too hard because human bodies, we're frail and, we do implode sometimes. So I had a little burnout moment, but I'm back with a vengeance.
That's good, Ben. Good to be working on stuff. And of course, we want to remind you guys to check out BitFest at bitfest.uk. It's going to be November 21st to 23rd at the Pendulum Hotel in Manchester, United Kingdom. I'll be there emceeing and introducing the events. We've got a Noster festival, we've got a music festival. And as it says on the webpage, this is not a corporate event. Bitcoin is for the people. So I hope if you have some free time in November and you want to travel to Manchester, where I'm going to be wearing my heavy leather jacket that I got from a German thrift store, it's going to be cold, but it's going to be awesome in Manchester. Check out BitFest at bitfest.uk. You can probably still get a deal on the tickets or something. They weren't that much. And like I said, we got the Noster, we got the music, we got the speeches. Everybody's going to be hanging out. It's a fun little hotel. Try to book at the hotel if you can too. Pendulum Hotel, Manchester, UK, bitfest.uk. Not a paid advertisement, but our friend is running it. It's really hard to run conferences. Most people don't really make any money on them except for the big conferences. So if you're just a normal person near the UK, you want to go hang out at Bitcoin conference, this would be a good one. Check out bitfest.uk. And that's about it. I'm hanging out in Amsterdam. I got one more week on the European vacation. I'm going to be in London next week, but I'm catching a plane the next day, so not that much time left on Europe. But it's been super fun, and I've been hanging on Twitter. Not as many pictures as the old days. It's hard to get through on the Twitter, but it's super fun to be in Europe. And thanks to Dan and Ben for doing the show. Thanks for everybody giving us a thumbs up down below. I heard Starship is in his camper van, so he's going to have to watch these later. So we're not going to get the live commentary feed, but maybe he'll give us a comment in the comments down below. Maybe you will too. Thanks to everybody for joining us and watching. We try to keep these shows going, even if it's at a slightly different time while I'm traveling. Busy, busy, busy. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.